Welcome to the pre-scene debrief video. So I'm going to quickly go through the pre-scene case study. This will be put on YouTube. So this will be a YouTube video. So if you're watching on YouTube, please don't forget to like and subscribe to increase the popularity of my channel. So if you don't know who I am and you want to get in touch with me after this webinar, there are a number of ways to get in touch. The first one is you can just scan this QR code, and that's got all my details on it and all the details of the courses. And this will be on YouTube later. So if you're watching on YouTube, you know already. But if you want to capture it later, just go to YouTube at sblguru.com, youtube.com/@sblguru. And so that's where it's going to be later on. If you want to do a course for September, we've still got some spaces left on the double mock course, and this will be a deep dive into the pre-scene case study, and it'll be a mock on the practice platform. So you can do a mock on the practice platform, detailed feedback on that mock. You're going to get a debrief. You also get a second mock based on the pre-scene and a live session Saturday before the examination. So that's still available. We can, if you want to do that, you can. You're going to sign up pretty quickly, but that will be on. It will be coming up. You'll do the exam, I think, on Monday or Tuesday next week, or Tuesday or Wednesday. I can't remember, but you do the exam at the early part of next week. If you want to do that course. So if you're interested to get your mock exam based on the pre-scene marking and feedback, then that is the course you need to do. Okay, so pre-scene, we'll talk about the pre-scene. On the actual day of the exam, you won't be really using the pre-scene that much. Most of the information you need to answer the tasks will be on the post-scene in the examination. So most information is going to be on the post-scene in the exam. So a lot of people get obsessed and they're trying to find the Easter eggs in the pre-scene and the secrets. It's not really there. On the actual day of the exam, a lot of questions will in no way relate to the pre-scene at all, apart from the same industry. So when we're looking at the exam, a lot of people ask me, what can come up in the examination? Basically, anything can come up in the exam. Anything is possible in the examination. So what we're looking for the exam, anything is possible for the examination. So people ask me, can project management come? Yes. Even topics that came last time can come again. So last time they asked about contextual change, Balogun and Hope's model on contextual change. And what happened was they asked it on the previous exam as well. So anything can come, and it can come on multiple examinations as well. So that's what you're looking for. Make sure with the pre-scene, what we're looking for is going to have the key features of the industry. So we've got to, it's a big advantage for us if we know a little bit about the industry. And make sure you've read that pre-scene a few times before the examination. If you're kind of referring to it and you can't remember what's in it, you're kind of wasting time on the day of the examination. So try to make sure you spend time on the pre-scene. You don't need to spend a lot of time researching the industry. All the information you need should be in the pre-scene. It should be enough for you. So don't waste time doing that. Practice more questions instead. On the day of the exam, you should be using the post-scene as the main source for your exam answers, not the pre-scene. Like I said, most people do the exam. They say 90% of the exam, they don't look at the pre-scene at all. And again, don't spend lots of time on the pre-scene at the expense of revising the syllabus. So the duration of the exam, I'm sure you know this now, it's 3 hours, 15 minutes. We've got, generally it's going to be 4 exhibits so far. They're not done 5, but 4 exhibits and 3 tasks in the exam. So all professional marks will be asked in the examination. So they're going to ask all the professional marks. So you're going to get 20% of your marks. It's going to be based on professional marks in the examination. So make sure you know that as well. Okay, so that's the first part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share the pre-scene case study. I'm going to share the pre-scene case study, and we're going to go through the pre-scene case study, so you can see it right there. So there we are, pre-scene. I'm just going to go through it line by line and try to highlight certain things that are important. So please feel free to ask questions as we go through. Menucraft is the business. It's like a meal preparation, a meal kit business. You get the meal, they give you all the ingredients and spices, and then you use that to prepare your meal. And they're just currently in one country right now. So currently they're just in one country. Could that mean that the question might be asking about whether they should go for overseas expansion in the future? Could there be a need to go for overseas expansion in the future? So that could be a question where they're asking about potential strategies, strategic options for the business in the future. Now, this business, they've got a lot of subscription revenue. That's kind of a good thing to have. If people stay subscribed, you've got a very regular income coming in. You know what the customers are going to buy. So it's easier to predict your stock and your supply because you've got a very clear idea of buying patterns. Just one thing about this, though, in the SBL syllabus, there's a big thing about risk. So as we're using products like meat, dairy, and fish, there is a risk of spoilage, right? So bear in mind that although they've got good systems, there's always a risk that things can go wrong, and there's a risk of spoilage in the system. So there may, it does like to ask questions, or the exam team like to ask questions about risk management. They like to ask questions which focus on risk management in the exam. So one of the risks you might look at is the risks of people not correctly looking after the food. So it's got a reputation risk, it's got a compensation risk, it's got maybe a legal risk because of that. So there's lots of risks associated with that. So look out for a question which asks about risk management, especially in relation to the food safety, because that one food safety incident can create a lot of risks for the organization. Okay, so look out for a question on risks and make sure you know and have some good ideas about how to manage that risk. So we've seen this market is expected to grow. It's 25 million in 10 years. It's going to triple. So they're still expecting globally, not locally. Remember, this is a global growth. They're expecting that to grow very fast. Now that might come from new countries who are just starting off. We see the growth is very fast in the short term. Now, what we've got here is competitors in the market. We've got competitors in the market. So they mentioned that strong competition, and whenever we see anything like that, to me, it may indicate that you may get asked a question about the competitive forces or Porter's 5 forces in the examination. Just in the competitive rivalry is one of the elements. They never really asked Porter's 5 forces before in the exam. So just make sure you've got that in mind for the examination. Also, they mentioned here about food waste. Is a good factor. So it indicates a potential question in relation to the environment. So the environment is going to be a potential question in the exam. What is good for the environment could be a factor for you in your examination. What's good for the environment. So indicates question maybe about integrated reporting, corporate social responsibility, environmental audit are all possibilities, because there's a big focus in this business. It's very much focused on the environment. We've got good local demand in the market, especially for the young professional people, busy work and family lives. They want a quick meal. And lots of people working in cities. So Could be a question in the exam. We've got this good local demand. How to target those young professionals, and that could lead to a question about marketing strategies to target those young people, to target those young professionals. What are the correct marketing strategies? They talk about the four main business competitors. So again, when they talk about competitors, what I'm thinking about here is potentially a question about Porter's five forces in the exam. So I think there's a lot of scope for that. You've got customers' power. Now, do you think the customer power is strong or weak in this business? Customer power, is it strong or weak? Customer power, strong or weak in this business? Customer power. Strong or weak? What do you think? Tell me in the group chat. Customer power, is it strong or weak in this business, this market? Customer power. Yeah, I think pretty strong as well. Yeah, so a lot of people saying strong. Yeah, I think it's pretty strong. So you've got a lot of elements there in Porter's five forces. You've got suppliers, you've got customers, you've got substitutes. What do you think the substitute is in this business? What is the substitute in this business? Substitute. What's the substitute? Heat and eat, yeah. So the heat and eat meals are definitely substitutes in this business and in this market. They are substitutes. So that is what we're looking for. So there are lots of things there that are related to the business and the organization that kind of lend itself nicely to a Porter's five forces question, right? So yeah, the market's growing. Substitutes definitely going to be a high number of substitutes in that market. Yeah, for sure. I think it's a big threat to them. Also, smaller meal kit providers focus on dietary requirements, vegan. So there's lots of opportunity to win new customers by changing the menu and making the menu. If you remember later on, it says they've only got 30 meals to choose from. It seems like quite limited. So if you can actually get more of a range of meals, it could lead you to penetrate the market. I just thought there's an opportunity there for offering like a slimming, low-calorie based product. So this is, again, they've got to keep on growing this business, right? They're a listed company. They've got to keep on growing the business. So how do they keep on growing it? So so we see there again, very competitive rivalry, very high competitive rivalry from the Porter's five forces, very balanced, like similar sized competitors in the market. So four big ones. I think it's very tough. And we know that when you've got high competitive rivalry, the pricing goes down, right? And that's going to be a problem for this business because when the pricing goes down, it's going to affect your margin, right? It's going to cut your margin very much in this business. So this is like a more of a high-end business they're operating, very good quality, organic products, good quality. But that means the price is going to be higher. It's going to affect the price. So when you get these meal businesses, the first thing they do is to go for volume, right? They're trying to get as many customers as possible, and they're not worried about profits. But there comes a point where you've got to try to make profits, right? So that's something that's going to maybe be a problem for this business in the future, especially if there is any kind of change or a recession in the market. So let's look at the meal kit. Yeah, so I just thought meal kits, there could be a lot of opportunities for increasing the range, especially low fat and carb. If they can combine, if we're looking for strategies for this company, combining it with with a low calorie meal would be a good opportunity for them, working with a partnership in the future. So that's something that they can think about. Okay. Yeah. So when I look at the order process, the first thing I'm thinking about in that order process, the first thing I'm going to think about is you're collecting a lot of personal data here. You're getting a lot of personal data. So I'm a bit worried here, especially as later on we find out they don't really have an IT manager, IT director in this company. They have an IT manager or IT director. So what we're thinking about here is potential exam question about cybersecurity. There's been a cyber attack on the business and all the personal details have been stolen. So it leads to a number of questions like causes of the cyber attack, impact of cyber attack, what's the impact, and also recommended risk management controls in the future going forward. So recommended risk management controls could be a factor that you have to talk about. So I think that's kind of a good chance of coming in the exam. It's not really mentioned anything. But with this collection of payment details, it creates a risk for the organization. One, frequency is like, again, one area that could be improved in the organization. If they can, some people only order once a month. If they order like once a week, it's going to enable them to penetrate that market and to get more market share. So this is the stage. I just thought cybersecurity and you know, the examiner may ask you about how can we get more people to buy? How can we increase our penetration in the market? So you think about ideas about getting people to buy more by having more variety, special offers, try to lock them in for longer periods. Things like that would be a very good way to increase your market share. So growth in the business, why is it growing? Is because in the current market, it's good for people who are busy, professionals and families. So it's the convenience leads to growth. Quality, made from fresh, high quality ingredients. The range is important, which suggests that there could be an issue there, variety and range. They only got 30 meals to choose from. It seems quite low. And it must be seen as value for money in the market. So that's if they say, well, if I just buy this, I just buy what I need, and it doesn't lead to me spending a lot of money, like buying a whole jar of chilies when I just need one chili, right? So it could be seen as cost effective by some customers. So it is growing, but maybe there's a cap to that growth and they've got to look for other ways to grow the business and grow the market. So it's currently, even though it's popular, it's still a very small percentage of overall food sales globally. It's just at 1% and 1.5%. And the question really is this business at the maturity stage? Are they kind of getting towards the map? They obviously grow very fast, quickly, but are they getting to that level where they are at maturity stage in the market? Yeah, so Heat and Eat is a substitute product. Now, this is a very simple product. So it's not everybody can cook. Not everybody wants to cook. So Heat and Eat can be for anybody, even people with no cooking experience. So that's going to become a substitute. And if you're looking at Porter's 5 forces, you'll be looking at a threat of substitutes. Also, supermarkets are kind of becoming a competitor as well. They're kind of copying the business model. So the market is becoming very, very competitive, and it's important to survive. The other question you might get asked about is this idea of customer retention. There's an issue with retaining customers in the business, and it might lead to a question about, again, I mentioned it earlier, about marketing strategies, how marketing strategies can be used to retain customers, because that's a key issue that they've got to have in this organization, is retention. How do we do it? So think about ideas to retain your customers, and marketing is one of the areas on the syllabus that is quite frequently asked about in the exam. So yeah, so service is kind of a service-based business, really, and how can we improve customer service? How can we lock in the customers for a longer period of time? How can we do that? We need fresh ingredients. And we've got hundreds of different suppliers. And there's been a significant investment in supplier management system, building up relationships. It's quite a complex supply chain. Okay, complex supply chain. Mentioned safety already. There's a risk of cross-contamination, and there's also a compliance cost for this business, regulation and compliance cost in this business, in this organization, compliance cost. So again, I think there could be a question that they dwell on that, where there's risk management question, where you're asked to manage the risks of contamination, manage the risks in the business. So make sure you've got some ideas, practical ideas, right? Don't just say transfer, avoid, reduce, accept. You need practical examples to pass SBL. You need to link to the case. So there could be a question about risks in terms of contamination risk. What's the impact of it, and how do we solve it? How do we prevent it? So have practical solutions. Data analytics mentioned here. Data analytics. So it does like questions. AI, data analytics, collecting data, and normally, if you're asked a question on data analytics, you would be looking at which 4 elements of data analytics would you talk about if you're asked about big data or data analytics in the exam. Which 4 elements would you talk about? Yes, that's the descriptive, diagnostic, right? Descriptive, diagnostic. There's 2 Ds and 2 Ps. There's 2 Ds and there's 2 Ps. So descriptive, diagnostic are 2. What are the 2 Ps? Yeah, predictive is 1. Predictive. Yeah, prescriptive, that's right. So make sure you know these terms and you can apply them in the exam, and think about how you would apply big data analytical techniques into this. Coming up, there's lots of good examples of things they can do in this organization about predicting what people will buy next, predicting whether they're going to be a long-term customer or short-term customer. You've got a lot of data there in this business, and we can use that data for predictive purposes. We can use it to what to do now, give specific advice on pricing, when to change pricing, special offers, Black Friday, when's the best time to change the pricing and give special offers. So you've got a lot of data there coming in. Also, they mentioned here that partnerships is a big part of your ACCA syllabus, joint venture, franchising, licensing. So JV partnerships with supermarkets, with celebrities, celebrity chefs to develop meals. So this is something you might talk about in an exam question where they're proposing a partnership arrangement. What are the benefits of going into a partnership with a celebrity chef? What are the problems of doing that? What are the problems? What are the weaknesses? What are the issues you're going to face with doing that? So if you partner with a supermarket, you might kind of cannibalize your own business a little bit. So it means that people stop buying on the subscription, they just buy at the supermarket. So you've got to look at the benefits of partnership and joint venture as a potential question. You've got the KPIs. here, active customers meals, but they also got two things here that they mention as important KPIs in the industry, which indicates to me that there's potentially a question there on integrated reporting. It does like questions, the examiner does like questions about CSR, integrated reporting. So if you're asked about integrated reporting, you might want to build your answer around the 6 capitals. So which capitals, what are the 6 capitals in integrated reporting? What are the 6 capitals in integrated reporting? Yeah, so financial, manufactured, intellectual, human, and natural capital. Like find my husband in northern Singapore is how you remember this capital. So they ask about benefits of the disclosure, benefits of that transparency, how it can be used, and they ask you to apply what examples would you use in this business for each of the 6 capitals. They've asked that before in the exam. How is it going to benefit the stakeholders? So it could link to a question on stakeholders as well. So there seems to be a lot of information about it being a very environmentally friendly business, trying to minimize food waste in the organization. So look out for that. There is a hygiene agency and food standards. So there's sort of like a compliance cost and a compliance risk. So that's the kind of industry background we've got. What we're going to look for is now we're going to look at menu craft, and it is definitely it's a very high-end product, high quality. So premium price. Now premium price can be good because that's their strategy. When would a premium price be bad? When would it be bad to offer a premium price? When would it be a bad thing? Well, normally I would think when there is a recession, if there's a kind of recession going on in the market, people are going to be cutting back, right? So in a recession, people are not going to be buying these very expensive meal kits. They're going to be going for ready meals, maybe ready to eat meals. So this kind of strategy may work well when the market's going well. But I think there's going to be a problem with this business, and they need to maybe diversify their range, maybe develop other. Right now, they're targeting a particular type of customer, professional people. If they want to penetrate the market more, they may have to look at a different range of products going forward. So this is where it brings me to the 30 recipes to choose from. It's very limited, quite a limited number. If we just look at the different categories, vegan, vegetarian, halal, low carb, high protein, there are lots of different categories. If they're only offering 30 meals, it seems quite a limited number of meals that they're offering to customers based on their categories, right? And the more meals you can offer, if you can offer more vegan options, you're going to reach out to a new target market. If you offer more vegetarian options, you're going to reach out to a new target market. If you offer more high protein options, it's going to reach a particular market. So the more variety of meals you can offer, generally the more you're going to penetrate that market. So that's something they can look at. There's been VC funding. Normally VCs, I thought it was going to be an issue, but they're already listed on the market. So I don't think it's a major problem. They've got very good retention, which is good, right? So they're retaining clients, right? So, and they've had definitely good growth, in the business. You can see the single people are reducing as a percentage of sales, but the families are increasing. So there's been a shift towards more family cooking. So they've been quite successful, definitely, in terms of growing the market. We don't know what the profitability is. That's when we look at the pre-seen case study, the important thing is to look at things that are not given to us and information we don't have. So although they've been very good in volume growth, we know it's a very competitive market. What's their profit look like? And I think the profit may be an issue for this company, because in a very competitive market, you put down your prices. You're going to be very price competitive. It says they're offering lots of special offers, but the cost is high. It's going to be a margin. It's going to be squeezed in that business. So then the stock market, the structure here looks okay, but again, with SBL pre-seen, it's never going to be based on the pre-seen, but we're looking at what don't we have. And the obvious thing there is there's no IT director. Well, this is a kind of technology-based business. Would expect to see an IT director in this business. So it seems they've got a lot of non-executive directors, which is good, but we don't know who they are. We don't know anything about board diversity. We don't know anything about the skills of the NEDs. We don't know if the NEDs have been on the board for several years, right? Yeah, there's no supply chain director. That's a good point, Amira. No supply chain director is kind of a key part of their business, right? A logistics director. So we know there seems to be some functional directors missing, but there could be more information in the post scene where they tell you that NEDs have been there a long time. They don't really have good expertise, or they're friends of the original founders. They don't have a good industry background and experience. But you can't tell from this, right? You can't find a secret Easter egg here where it's gonna, it's going to impact the business, right? So yeah, the original founders still going to have quite a big impact on that business. So so this one, post-scene, may give you questions about recommendations on how to improve the board structure, how to improve the board structure. Yeah, so look out for that. But again, you can't tell now. It looks good in theory. We're missing a few functional areas, but there'll be something in the post-scene maybe they're going to ask that question. I just thought here they're talking about suppliers and the fact that the population is loyal and supportive. Could there be a question on Porter's Diamond, right? They've never really asked Porter's Diamond in the exam. If you don't know Porter's Diamond, take a look at my podcast. I've got a podcast about Porter's Diamond. So Porter's Diamond never really been asked recently, so look out for that question in the exam, which talks about country features. So you've got suppliers, we've got network industries, we've got factor conditions. So it's kind of all there. And then they give more information in the post-scene, which will allow you to do a question about the diamond. I just put here related and supportive industries, good organic. All their suppliers are certified for safety and quality. They also talk about they help to minimize waste. They use algorithms to predict recipes ordered by customers. It can order the right amount of ingredients to reduce waste. Yeah, so they're using algorithms, but maybe they can use it more. Maybe there's a bit more scope to use those big data in a more effective way in terms of descriptive and diagnostic. Why is a meal not selling? Using some of the social media feedback. So we can use different ways to use that data. So there's a little scope. Again, they're talking about charity, which is social capital. CSR, big part of the business. So these ingredients must be chilled. Again, I talked about already the risk there. There's a risk of contamination. There's a temperature control area. There's a risk of spoilage. So there's frequent delivery, and they're very good again. This is a very environmentally friendly business. They're very good on packaging. So this is business which is like very good on CSR, minimizing the environmental footprint. Seems like a very effective business in that respect, and they think about those a lot. The only negative thing I can think about is there is only one manufacturing center. So if it was in London, say, and somebody orders a once a month meal in Edinburgh, there's a lot of distribution costs. And we don't know about these distribution vehicles, whether they are environmentally friendly or not. So there's quite a lot of carbon footprint involved, although they're very good at the supplier end and the manufacturing end. There's potentially a lot of issues in the distribution and the carbon footprint. So things like electric vehicles may be an issue there that they can work on to minimize that. They talk about the meal kit production. A lot of robotics being used. A robot reads the barcode. Second robot places it in an empty box. Barcode scanned by a human operative who selects the correct recipe, places them in a meal kit box in the correct order. So a lot of robotics, but maybe there's a potential for full automation. Do we need the people? Like it says that the lid is closed, it's sealed by a human. Seems like, why is that not done by a robot? Could they just automate this factory completely? And there is a section on your syllabus about robotics. So like total automation of the factory would be a possibility. It would make you super efficient, but a lot of issues about making people redundant, labor costs, skills, investment costs. There's lots of issues, but could there be a potential for a full automation of that factory? So we're using GoFlow. They've got GPS to ensure CO2 emissions are optimized. But we don't know if it's a petrol or is it electric cars, because if it's petrol, it's still got a lot of carbon emissions caused by that distribution process. So again, some questions about environmental issues, etc. could be there. So we've got risks here. They mentioned data breach here, sabotage, customer risks. What I would do if I were you is just make sure you've got risk management strategies in place. You've got ideas on risk management strategies to control these risks. You need risk management strategies in place. So you've got competition risks. How do you manage the competition? How do you manage to achieve legal compliance? We've got external checks every 6 months to maintain our license. How do we maintain customer retention? How do we manage that risk? How do we look at data? So cybersecurity, again, question. So there could be a question on risk management strategies there, how to manage different risks. And there are some significant risks in this business. It says like, you've got a license to operate, depends on certification. So if you've got one problem, you could lose your license to operate. It's going to massively impact on your business. So there's lots of risks. Therefore, the examiner likes to ask questions about impact of risk and risk management strategies. Website here, it seems like very good, right? Environmental, they're focused on the environment. I just thought they've never, ever asked ISO 14000. Could there be a case for having ISO 14000? So make sure you know the stages for ISO 14000. Make sure you know the benefits of ISO 14000. Also, they talk about honesty, respect, and accountability. Honesty, respect, and accountability. So this is an ethics question. An ethics question in the examination. Ethics question. If you get an ethics question in the exam, what 5 things do you talk about if there's an ethics question in the exam? What 5 things are you going to talk about if there is an ethics question in the exam? What are you going to talk about? So ethics is quite a common. Most students are going to struggle with ethical questions in the examination. But if you get asked an ethical question, what are you going to talk about in the exam? Well, normally if you get asked ethics questions, yeah, and there's got so yeah, you'd be looking at breach of these values, right? Honesty, accountability, respect. So are they maintaining standards? But also you can use your IFAC principles of professional behavior, professional competence. These are also important elements in ethics, right? So that's give you a nice structure as well as the one you've got here. You've got the general professional competence, professional behavior. It's also a good way to unlock the questions in the exam. Yeah, we've got some stats. Revenue's good. Basically, it's growing, but it's kind of slowing down, right? It's slowing down. There seems to be some revenue per meal has like gone down a bit. Maybe that's because of price competition. Yeah. So we're not really growing the meals revenue like we used to, or maybe it's more mature. Again, meals delivered growth is slowing down. It's still good, 15% still good, but so now do they need a new strategy? Yeah. Active customers, growth. This is growth, not number of customers, but growth. They are growing customers, but the growth is slowing down for me. So they may need to look for other ways to either penetrate the market and look for other revenue streams as well. So there could be a question about should they buy their competitor? So if they buy their competitor, potentially they're going to have that economies of scale. Could be a suitability, acceptability, feasibility question based on that area. Okay, so yeah, so those are the kind of questions I'll be looking at for the examination. But basically in the SBL exam, anything can come, right? So it's definitely, you cannot predict all the questions from the pre-scene, 100% cannot, right? There's lots of things in the exam that is in no way connected. So last exam, there was a question on contextual change. Like, super surprised, it came on 2 consecutive exams. There's nothing on change on the pre-scene, nothing. There was a question on the last exam about intrapreneurship. There was nothing in the pre-scene about intrapreneurship. So not every question can be predicted. There will be surprises, so you have to know everything for the examination, 100%. You've got to know everything for the exam. Okay. So can change management come up? Yeah. Can something not on the pre-scene come up? Project management, right? Could that come up? Yeah. What about change management? Yeah. So don't think that the only questions they're going to ask are going to be based on things that are in the pre-scene, because they're going to have 30 to 40 marks which are in no way connected to the pre-scene case study. So don't rely on these things I've told you. This might give a few ideas, but you've got to really be prepared for anything in the examination. Has anyone got any final questions about this? Yeah. Can we ignore the public sector matrix? That's a good question, right? I mean, it doesn't look like it's going to be linked to the public sector, but then again, you see, what they could ask is, there could be a big opportunity for school meals, providing food for school meals for kids. But what they're going to have to work with the government. The government's got a very tight budget. There's like, should they take a government contract to provide school meals? Then it does indicate the public sector. Do you know what I mean? So kind of anything can come up. So I would say it's like less likely, definitely public sector, but I could see a scenario where they could bring something in which is providing school meals for the public sector. How to link entrepreneur and intrapreneur. I mean, entrepreneur is people outside an organization setting up a business, being creative and using ideas. Intrapreneur is getting those people who normally would set the business outside, but keep them in the company, keep them in the organization to be creative and develop products for the company rather than for themselves. So that's the difference between intrapreneur and entrepreneurship. Okay. So the last time they asked about intrapreneur, how do they create good entrepreneurship in the company? What can they do? That's what they asked about. And there was nothing on the pre-scene about anything to do with that. So again, prediction, anything can come, even public sector. I don't think it's like massively likely, but I could see a scenario where they could ask it, the government contract to provide school meals. You know, it does fit. There could be a scenario where public sector does come up, even though it looks like it's not, but this is the nature of SBL exam. There's no predicting it is very difficult. Yeah. We have been quite successful in our mock exams, like recently, but I can never get 100%. You know, like last time the morning was like 70% similar, but the afternoon was like 45. So, you know, we can predict some things, but there's always unknowns. There's always unknowns in the exam. So how benefit is exploring relevant industry like HelloFresh reports? You mean like doing your own research? It's not relevant. I mean, you don't need to do it. You don't need to look at HelloFresh reports. They say don't do it. Right? They say don't do it. You've got enough information about that. Rather than looking at HelloFresh reports, revise your core knowledge. Revise ISO 14000, revise change management. I much prefer you spending your time building your knowledge, and so you've got a good knowledge base for all parts of the syllabus. I think it's a waste of time looking at HelloFresh reports because I just think it's not going to really give you anything that's useful, really. Everything you need is in there already. And it's a fictional company. Don't forget, it's not a real company. So what HelloFresh do and what this company do is different. Okay, so if you want to get in touch with me, and if you're interested in the double mock course, which is 2 mocks based on the pre-scene examination, just let me know. Just there's details of all the double mock course is in the contact form, so you can find out there about the double mock course. You'd have to be able to sit the double mock course early next week if you want to do that. The mock exam would be on maybe Tuesday. You'd be able to sit the mock exam on by Tuesday. Okay. All right. If there's no more questions, I will thank you much for coming. I'm going to put this on YouTube now, so if you want to watch it again, it can be there. It can be there on YouTube. Okay. Thanks very much.